Hey guys, it's SD, your host of the Life Fix Relationship podcast, where people with all sorts of backgrounds, challenges, and life experience show us how they make their relationship extraordinary.
Hey guys, hope you're having an awesome day and enjoy the last episode with Tracy. I had so much fun recording it. I hope you had as much fun listening to it. Today's guest is a real inspiration. He's the host of the Braving the Journey podcast, which, by the way, I really strongly suggest you go check it out, bravingthejourney.com. He in the past has struggled a lot with alcohol, had a lot of challenges with his marriage, and today has an amazing marriage and is a foster parent. Thank you so much, Zach Mathers, for being here. I am so excited to be speaking with you. First, how has being foster parents affected your own relationship? There's so much going on with kids and comings and goings.
My wife and I, we met in college. Right after we met, I took off traveling around the world, filming documentaries. And at the end of our trip, we kind of always had a heart. We thought we were going to end up in just a different country running like an orphanage. So we ended up studying models of orphanages, big, small, why, what worked, what didn't, and all this. And then we found ourselves back in the States. And I came home one day and I was like, hey, let's be foster parents. And neither of us really had any idea what that meant or was. We just thought, hey, there's kids in need, like, let's help. So we've been doing it for 10 years. And it's had a huge effect in our marriage. And my kid, I have 3 of my own biological kids. And when I say it's had a huge effect, our first foster kid placement we had for about just under 2 years. And we got him when he was really little. And so you love these kids like they're your own, and then they leave and they go back to a situation or a home family situation that you may not go, or I look at it and go, man, I could do better, but that's not really my choice. And so my wife and I, we've had to learn how to be really aware of where we're at personally with each other. And my whole family, we've learned to mourn together. Like it's a sincere, when a kid leaves, it's a shift. Everybody's like my 2 youngest girls, they act up, they're, different. And we all just kind of mourn, like you mourn a loss, and then you kind of pick yourselves up and time kind of happens. And then we look at it and go, okay, we're ready for another one. And then, another kid comes in and then it's an adjustment because you got this totally new life to the family. That's, they're usually really difficult. They're not like, they're coming from a hard situation. There's been trauma, there's been abuse, there's been whatever it is that caught them into the system. So yeah, it's really difficult, but at the same time, it brings sometimes a lot of purpose to both my wife and I. Like that, it's something that we get to do as a family. It's not something I go do or she goes and does. It's something we do together.
What specific things do you do to mourn as a family? So someone listening to this needs to mourn, they could do the same.
Well, I think something like for me, mourning is it's a natural emotion that I think as humans try to go, let's avoid any feelings of pain. So for me, it's the simplest fact of like teaching my kids and myself going, it's okay to be really sad right now. And like, we can just be sad together, and we could sit in sadness together. We can cry together. We could be in these moments. And at the same time, like, when a kid leaves, we would, a lot of times, even around dinner, we would sit and be like, try not to like ignore the fact. So we would be like, man, what do we miss about having that one with us? Oh, I miss this or this, and I love this, and so you kind of just be okay. One of the things my family, we did it last year, right at New Year's. We took a 5-day trip, no cell phones. We took no devices, 0, just left every device at home. And I printed out this kind of worksheet for my kids, age specific for them, and then for my wife and I. And it was kind of a reflection sheet where we got to look back and go, what was really awesome about 2019? What was really hard about 2019? What was the worst? What was the best? All these different moments that you got to reflect back on, which helped in the morning because like in 2019, we had a foster kid that had to go. And, we were able to, like, for me, I was able to say like one of the good moments was they left because she was really difficult. And my daughter, that was her hardest moment in 2019 was losing that, so we got to recognize both emotions and then we spend time sitting and looking at 2020 going, okay, what do we want to do this year?
Sure, that was changed.
Yeah, definitely. It didn't pan out as exactly as we figured, but yeah. But I'm excited to I'm excited for this year is to sit down with my family and shut down off of social media and all devices and just reflect.
It's such a cool experience. I like it, especially people do it many times by themselves. But when you do as a whole family, especially, and you show little kids that they can do it, then you could compare and understand each other on such much deeper levels.
And I learned some. I mean, I'm honestly, I'm a forgetful person. So then when we sat down and kind of like tried to like outline the year, like what happened this last year, my kids would bring up stuff or adventures or things we did, or my wife would say something and I'd be like, I forgot about that, And so it's really fun because you get a bigger picture of the year.
So cool. Okay. Yeah. So how has your marriage changed from the beginning until where it is today?
My marriage has changed a lot. What I mean, I got married, I was young. I was 21 years old. We both were 21. We kind of stepped into marriage being like, yeah, we don't know what we're doing. We were the first of our friends to get married, and my story's pretty heavy. I was at a young age. So I was 23 at this time. I was a senior pastor of a church, and I had an affair on my wife. And so I lost everything. My son was just born, and I came out and told my wife and told my community. And so I lost my job, lost my community, and my wife and my son left. And so we were in a separation for quite a while. And so my marriage is definitely not the norm of like, it was like this and now it's like this. It went like that, and it exploded to the point where I was like, I don't know if it's even going to ever exist again. And through time and through a lot of marriage counseling, a lot of personal work on myself, my wife and I did a slow progression where it was slower. Like I moved back in the house, but was in a different room for a season at a time, and progressed and progressed and progressed. And I sit here now and I'm like, gosh, my marriage is amazing, but we put a lot of work into it. I mean, we still, even to this day, we do marriage counseling just on like a once a month basis. We meet with our counselor, and it's just a sounding board for us to keep processing, and so we've gone to definitely a different depth in our relationship. I think at the beginning of our marriage, we believed we somehow were supposed to be everything for each other. So when we did that, we put a lot of pressure on each other, meaning like I expected my wife to be everything, my best friend, my lover, all these things and do it perfectly. And she expected the same from me. And we've learned to eliminate that pressure. She's human. I'm human. And she's going to fail and I'm going to fail. And we're not going to be the best person for each other at times. And other times we are, but there's so much more grace now and freedom. Yeah. It's just so much easier to live in, I guess.
Going back to your fears, do you think there was an emotional, something that was missing there that made you have it?
In the marriage, maybe. I think a big outlet for me was, so I was a young pastor and leading a congregation and not having a clue what I was doing. So on the outside, I was putting on a face that said, I got it all figured out. I'm doing great. On the inside, I didn't know where to run or do, or I was, so right when it all happened, I was becoming a dad for the first time. Marriage was good, but it wasn't like necessarily like the best, satisfying in any way. I was, pastoring a community, and I still in this, like, I don't know what I'm doing. So all of those, there was so many of, I don't know, that to some element, I think I just went to whatever felt best at that time. And a little bit of it was probably self-sabotaging. Like, I'm going to blow this thing up. Yeah. So I think a lot of it was escaping any pressure, things that are hard, that were difficult, trying to figure out. It was like my outlet. It was my easy way out.
So it wasn't especially your marriage, but life in general.
No. And that's what's so interesting, because you hear a lot about affairs and like, oh, my marriage was terrible, or, oh, these things, or we argued all the time, or all this stuff. And it wasn't that for us. That's what I think even made it harder for my wife sometimes, is like, wait, why? Like, why'd this happen? Like we had something.
What did I do wrong?
Yeah. And the reality is like, you did nothing. And, I think we have a tendency to think that it must have been so awful that you chose to go there. When the reality was, it wasn't. It's gotten better, of course, but I think any marriage, I hope over years you're going to progress towards better versus settling for this is just the way it is. Because even now, I could literally tell you today, from a year ago today, my marriage has progressed significantly, and I hope I can say that when it's like 30 years in.
So what's one thing that you constantly do that makes sure your marriage progresses?
It's interesting. So I think a lot of it, there's little things I do within our marriage, but then also I think the reality is I've learned to have to take care of me, meaning on top of the affair, I'm also a recovered alcoholic. And so I have to take care of myself. And so if I'm not healthy and doing well, I'm not going to be a healthy aspect as a husband or a dad. And so, for me, some of that is self-care. Like I need to create space and time to go get in the water because I have a really hard time doing anything for myself. I always think, I got to do this for my kids, or I got to do this for my wife. And so to have to create space and time for me to be able to say like, I'm going to take 5 minutes at the end of my workday and going to go jump in the ocean. And I know I'm going to go home and be a better dad, or a better husband. That's one aspect. I date my wife. We try to date no matter, with foster kids, with our kids, whatever, we try to at least try to make it happen once a week, and it's not these elaborate dates. Sometimes it's like, cool, we're going to go for a walk, but I want my kids to grow up seeing that their dad dated their wife, their mom, like that I loved her and pursued her. And so we date each other, but then we categorize things. Like there's times where like we schedule business meetings, and our business meetings are more directed towards talking finances and talking through, doing the nonprofit stuff together and all these things that we've learned over time. Because a lot of times in the beginning, my wife, I'd be walking out the door headed somewhere else, and she'd be like, "Hey, we need to talk about the money." And I would be like, "No, because it wasn't the time." And so now we've learned we create space. Like there's space to talk about that. There's space to date each other. There's space, when we're dating each other, we try not to talk about our kids. We talk about each other. And then once a week, we do this thing called 5 A's, and we try to do it on Sundays. And we're not 100% at it every week, but we learned it in premarital counseling, and then we forgot about it for probably like 10 years, and then it came back. But it's basically really simple. It's like affirmation. So the first thing you do is you look at the other person and you just say, "Hey, I love you this week because I saw you do this and it was amazing." So it's just affirming, just recognizing, going, "Hey, I just want to affirm you." And I saw you as a mom dealing with, the fact that we're having to do school at home with the kids, and it's really difficult, and you're doing an amazing job. I just want to, and so we both take turns. We affirm each other in something. And then that prompts the ability to ask the question, next, is there anything I did that frustrated you or bothered you this week? And so what we found in our marriage, it's really big because anytime we try to like criticize each other, "Hey, you did, this bothered me," or "You did this," it's easy to go on the defense because you're like, "Whoa," and you kind of can go in an argument, but it looks different when you ask the question of it. So you're opened up to letting them have their time. So a lot of times, like I'll ask my wife, "Hey, is there anything I did that frustrated you, bothered you this week?" And she'll say, "Hey, yeah, you are really good at being on time with everybody else, but for some reason when you say you're going to be home, you're not, and that's hard for me." And I hear it then. I go, "Hey, I hear that, and that's something I'm going to choose to work on." And then she does and then she asks me, and like we share that. And then is there that question of, is there anything I can do for you this week? And it's great because simple question, "Hey, what can I do for you?" And it's, can you do this for me? Or I need to go to the store and get this. Can you do that for me? And it's a time where I'm able to respond and go, "No, I can't do it this week actually, but I can do it next week." Or, "Yeah, I can, and I will." And so it's kind of, and then it's,
Hold on. Is that things that are like a specific thing? Like, could you go to the grocery store, or is it things in general in life? Like, I want you to spend more time with me?
It could be both. Like, I want you to pursue me and go on a date, or but it's like this week's my wife's was, I want you to spray bug spray around the house and move where the dog food is, because she's actually asked me to do that like for weeks, but never in this time, never in the 5A time, and so I think I heard it, but I didn't really. I was like, yeah, I'll do it, and I never did. And then she said, hey, can we do our 5As? And I think she only wanted to do that because she wanted me to move where the dog food was. And we did, though. We did. And I literally, the next thing I did the next morning, I got up and I moved it and I sprayed for bugs. So yeah, sometimes it's bigger things, and sometimes it's just those really little things that when we try to ask each other them, when someone's running out the door or trying to help the kids do something, we don't hear it. So it just creates space and time to actually hear the person and go, yes, I can, or no, I can't. And this is, and then for us, the other ones are amen, pray together, and affection, whatever the affection part looks like. Yeah.
Awesome. I like that.
Yeah. So that's our little, like, when we learned it, it was supposed to be do it every day. It's kind of the concept, if you take a vitamin every day, you're going to stay healthy. We found it was hard to do every day, because just creating space and time for it every day became kind of like, almost felt like a chore. But now we find, like, on a weekly basis, it's kind of really nice. So, yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah. It's like something you can do anywhere and just make sure your marriage stays in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. Okay. Now, has your wife's view changed because of everything that you've gone through? Like, of you?
I try not to speak for her too much, but yeah, I think our views, I believe our views change of everybody kind of through circumstances and certain things. She worked through the affair part in her way and her time. And, I remember a big piece of it was when she said to me, she said, forgiveness is always come across as this like one-time thing, like I forgive you and we're done. But she said, it's something I have to choose to do daily. So sometimes I have to wake up and forgive you today. And then the next day I have to do the same thing. And, that was a big piece for me to learn, that, like, it's a process, just as it is for me to work through my own shame, is a process for her to have to work through her forgiveness side, but then the alcohol was I was a closet drinker, so I would hide it, and I would be deceitful and dishonest about if I was drinking or not. And, I was an isolated thing that I did on my own. And it was so damaging to our marriage at times, because my dishonesty and deceit would snap her right back to the trauma of the affair, going, wow, do I trust this guy? Do I trust him again? What's going on? And so, yeah, I'm sure she looks at me differently. And at the same time, I also know that she looks at me with a lot of pride, that I never gave up, that I have always owned my stuff and said, I need help, and been able to ask for it and find it. And if this didn't work, I'll go try it somewhere else. And so I think she looks at that too and goes, like, man, like, I know I have a husband that's going to continually try to get better, work on himself. And so, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but
that's awesome. Yeah. You each committed to each other no matter what. So
yeah.
And you're wanting to take your relationship further. So that's just what's going to happen. Now, have you used the 5 love languages in your relationship?
We have. I remember reading the book a while ago, and I think for us, it's really come down to a simple, like, my love language is affirmation. I love to be affirmed and told I'm doing a good job and told me I'm great and all these things. My wife's is quality time, and quality time doesn't look like shoulder to shoulder time, like doing something together. It's like facing each other and going, like, let's talk, what's going on, and so just in knowing that, it helps. If that's the basics of it for me, it's like, because I have a tendency to want to try to love her, and I like acts of service as far as mine too. So I have a tendency to try to love her in my love languages, meaning,
yeah, like most people.
Yeah, like I'll go wash the car and be like, yeah, look at that, I did that, I love you. And she's just like, she doesn't see it at all. She just doesn't care. And because she's like, I would rather have you sat down on the couch with me and hung out while you washed instead of washed my car. So yeah, just knowing that and learning that, I've learned to have a messier car, her car be messier, and spend time with her now, and she knows that I need words of affirmation. So she does. She affirms me or shoots me a quick little text like, hey, I'm so proud of you today. You're doing this or whatever.
So cool. So awesome. Now, how are you able to be so vulnerable and so open to each other?
I think it's taken time. I wish I could say that when we first got married, that I was just fully vulnerable. And I thought I was, I think, actually. But I think we've learned to be vulnerable with each other. Partly, for me at least, I can speak on my own. I've learned to be vulnerable with my wife, and partly because I've had to learn how to be vulnerable with myself. What I mean by that is I can't be vulnerable with her if I'm not aware of it. And so a lot of times for me, like I've gotten in a really good rhythm and habit of creating. I get up before the kids do and have some quiet time, and I journal and I write out like what's going on inside of me. Why do I feel anxious? What is this emotion? And if I don't create space and time to even be aware of it, I may not have answers to it. It's just at least be aware of it. And then when I'm aware of it, I can bring it to her and go, I'm feeling super stressed out because this is happening in my life right now. Or, and it's so that vulnerability piece has learned to be able to come, I think, only in as we individually have grown and grown in a way of going, how do we learn to be aware of what's going on inside of us and then be able to create space and time to express that to each other.
Yeah, it's hard.
It is. And creating time, like having 3 kids, we struggle to just create time to be vulnerable with each other. There's a lot of times we try this and it doesn't happen all the time. We're trying to help our kids learn that, like, when I come home from the end of the workday or whatever, that mom and dad need 10 minutes in the bedroom. And like we try to. So we try to go in the bedroom for 10 minutes without the kids interrupting and just look at each other and go like, how are you doing today? Are you surviving? And there's days where my wife's like, I'm done. I'm done with the kids. I need your help. And there's other days where I'm going, I'm exhausted and done. I need your help. And then there's days we both say the same thing. We're like, we're both tired of life today. Let's just get through it together. But it helps like coming into it on the same page, because otherwise when we don't do those things, I come in and I'm already done and she doesn't know it and she's asking for help and
blow up.
And so just saying that, I'm like, man, we need to be better at doing that every day. But again, it's hard to create space and time even for those like 10 minutes, but they're crucial. Those 10 minutes, if we can have 10 minutes alone in the room right when I come home, the rest of the evening, bedtime, engagement with the kids, it's huge. I learn a lot, like when I come home and she's like, hey, we've had a really tough day with our middle child and she's been acting up. Can you go try to create some time with her? Just, she needs some one-on-one time with you, and so then we'll go play. Her and I will go, do something that she wants to do, and it helps. So, but if I didn't know that, if we didn't create time to talk about it, then just everything is just tense.
I love that because first of all, it's at the same time every day.
Yeah.
So it's expecting to train your kids to it. Yeah. And it's probably the most important or most tense time of the day, if not for the 10 minutes right before you leave and 10 minutes right when you come home.
Yeah.
Just hectic, like whole day, and just checking in with each other, what you can do for each other and how you're moving forward. And
we try to check in with each other even throughout the day, like just like, hey, this, just through texting, even just like, this is going on. So you're kind of aware. And I always try to send a text on my way home because my work's kind of so irregular at times that I don't come home, like I don't have the 9-to-5 job that comes home at the same time every day. So I try to be really good about say like just shooting, hey, I'm going to be home in 20 minutes. So it kind of helps her prep her mind, like, oh, cool, he's gonna be home. We're going to have 10 minutes to go talk and connect. And then I every Sunday night I sit down and I write my calendar out on a whiteboard that goes on the refrigerator. Even though it's in both of our phones, our calendars are synced together. Everything's just, we can see everything. There's something tangible about me just writing it out and going, okay. And then we could put in, all right, kids have horseback riding and this and different things. And then we kind of get an overview of the week and go, okay, this is gonna be a tough week or a busy week or,
more chill this week.
Yeah. Or like, hey,
if that ever happens.
We can go to the beach a bunch this week. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Last question. How would you describe an extraordinary relationship without using these 3 words? Love, connection and intimacy?
First thing that came to my mind is extraordinary relationship starts with a lot of grace. Grace for yourself and grace for each other. Because just reality is we're not going to be perfect in whatever we do. And so for some reason, the world around us puts out these snapshots on Instagram and Facebook and all the media that looks like it's perfect. So we have this idea in our head that we have to live to that standard. So we're never going to. And so it's reality is I think extraordinary relationship has the ability to have a lot of grace for each other and create space for each other to grow together and to, I know my wife needs space to be her and, is creating her space to have just times that she can sit and reflect and think and do these things. And I need it. And so we're creating that space. Yeah. And just don't take life too serious. It's made to be fun. Like it's made to be a joy. Oh, yeah. Kids are made for fun and joy, but like, it's so easy to get bogged down in the seriousness of life that we forget to like literally just like laugh and play. We have a trampoline in our backyard and it's so easy for me to ignore that my kids play on it, but I don't go join them. It's easy like to just forget to just be a kid too and play and enjoy and laugh together. And, same with your spouse, like just have fun,
Awesome. So. I love that. Well, thanks so much, Zach. It was great speaking to you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited. I think the conversation around relationships is so crucial and key. And especially right now, like I think COVID even amplifies it. It amplifies the things that you're struggling with inside your marriage. You're somewhat creating more time with each other. There's more stress because the finances aren't there. There's so much more to it right now. So I think this conversations that you're having are crucial. So good job.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. Did you enjoy that episode? Could you do me a personal favor and subscribe and leave a review? It would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much and have an awesome day.